Hello, everyone, and welcome to my very first podcast and YouTube video. My name is Dr. Jose Paez, and I am incredibly excited to have you join me on this journey. First, a little bit about me. I am a child psychiatrist, educator, executive coach, an overall dad of three who was trying to go through life and figure out how to get things done. And I'm also a founder at my company called Catalyst Cognition, where I hope to empower people to achieve the full potential in their lives. And I've helped hundreds of people do that. And I hope to continue doing that to a wider audience to make mental health, personal development, parenting, and leadership as a whole more accessible, and to provide you with actionable tips that you can use every day to get the results that you want out of life. And so I think fittingly, this topic that I want to start my podcast with today and my YouTube series out today is about taking action in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. I think a lot of times we undervalue our ability to face difficulties and don't understand that in order to face challenges in our lives, we have to overcome a lot of fears, doubts, internal beliefs, and what have you in order to even start to overcome these things that stop us from taking action. The reality is that real change comes from action, right? Real change doesn't come from inaction. It doesn't come from just sitting still and waiting for things to fix themselves. Real change comes from taking action every day in the direction that you want your life to go. And that doesn't happen overnight, of course. That's something that you can train, and it's a skill that you can master. The skill of being able to bend without breaking and to face difficulties in life. Just in finance, risk management, you need to be able to be comfortable taking larger and larger risks in order for you to start to see these things happen in your life. One of the things that I wanted to do is to give the audience, give you guys actionable steps that you can do every day. I'm a child and adolescent psychiatrist, educator, founder of Catalyst Cognition, and I'm going to be introducing a lot of these topics that are based on a lot of the therapeutic modalities that I use with my own patients and with the families that I work with, and with the clients and executive coaching that I work with. And so we're going to be talking about IFS, or internal family systems, acceptance and commitment therapy, the very popular CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. And then we're also going to be talking about just Gestalt psychotherapy, and then the Stoic philosophy, or the different philosophers throughout history. I think a lot of the therapies that we use today are born from these philosophers. And so it's important to keep that in mind. And so one of the things that I want to start is by taking small steps in order to start taking action. And so I want you to start to analyze the actions that you need to take. And you don't need perfect conditions to begin, right? You don't need everything to be right in order to take in the first step. It's just getting started. I think a lot of times people have a hard time with starting at the beginning. Everybody wants to start at the end where they see their heroes. I think people have a really hard time understanding that in order to start something, you're going to have to start at the beginning. And you're going to need to be able to weather the storms that come when you first start something new. For example, me taking this leap in my personal life of coming on video and recording this video. It's not an easy thing for me to do. Have never described myself this way, but I understood as I got further in my career that if I wanted to have the impact that I wanted to have in my community, I needed to get in front of a camera because the reach is exponential. I think right now we're living in a time in which it is incredibly powerful to reach so many people, millions of people potentially, through the use of this medium, YouTube and other social media platforms. And so one of the things is start small. Don't get bogged down by the details. They said action beats perfect any day of the week. And take the smallest possible step that you can take right now. I usually tell my patients is when you start to take the first step, make it so incredibly easy that you'll accomplish it by default. And the reason for that is that what you really need is not motivation, you need momentum, right? You need to take the first step and then the second step, and then you're on a roll. The latest habit research test, we used to think that it takes 21 days to start a habit, 1 day to break it, but that's not really based on science. I think some of the neuroscience coming out right now says that it takes about 60 to 90 days to form a habit. And so it's important for us to make sure that the progression from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4 is a gradual progression so that we are more likely to stick with it, right? So you have to make your actions in the steps that you take approachable and achievable, number one. you have to educate yourself. And so one of the things that you have to do is you have to educate yourself on the topic that you are trying to take action in. And educating yourself, I don't mean to consume every podcast and to consume every video that you can see, but just educate yourself enough so that you know what is the first step you need to take, not what is the perfect first step you need to take. Just know the general direction in which you need to take that first step. And so one of the things that we do is that, for example, when kids are learning to walk, they see other people walking, and then they mimic what other people do. Find the information of the people that have come before you, that have taken the steps that you want to take, and then you can mimic their steps, but not to be perfect, but just to know in which direction it is that you're going to be learning how to walk. That's the only thing that I want you to do, is just to start to get that momentum under your feet. The more momentum you build, the more confident you'll become. The next thing is connect with a community. And I think that's so important because it's really hard to do this alone. And like I said, very rarely at this point in our lives are we the first to be doing anything. Maybe the approach is different and we are unique, but what we are doing essentially has come before us, right? Unless you are doing something that's entirely uncharted. It has never been done before, but ultimately the theme of what it is that you're trying to accomplish has already been done. And so look at those people and look at the people that are in those communities and join those communities. So then you can see the steps that it takes to get from point A to point B, not necessarily with the heroes that you want to be one day, but with the person that you can most relate to, right? So that's one of the things that I did before doing this. I looked at a lot of the social media platforms and I joined different groups of dads in business, for example, which is a community of dads who are just getting started in business, have been established in the business, and they help each other out. And that has been incredibly important to me. You want to establish simple systems that you can follow and that are, like I said, very low and very easy to do. When you have a system in place, and like I said, it takes 60 to 90 days for you to establish a habit. And if you have a system, it's a lot easier for you to take the steps that it takes for you to establish this habit. So create simple, repeatable routines so that you can do them every day. And again, make the actions so small that you'll accomplish them by default so that you can start to build that momentum. Because when motivation fades, what's going to carry you to the end is momentum, right? It's not motivation. What's going to carry you to the end is momentum. That's what's going to carry you all the way to the end of the race, because there's going to come a time where the space behind you is going to be larger than the space in front of you. We don't know how far our goals are. And I've always heard this saying, if you knew that it was going to take 10 tries for you to be successful, how fast would you try to go through those 10 tries? What I want you guys to focus on is that the better systems that you build, the more momentum that you build, the farther you'll be from your starting point. And so that is what usually keeps you going. It's when you look back and you say, come this far, it just makes more sense to keep moving forward. And you do that by building systems. You do that by sticking to those systems and making the steps achievable and realistic. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to celebrate every win. And the win isn't always just getting to the goal that you want to get. You want to be able to split the goal into smaller goals. We say you have short-term, intermediate, long-term, and very long-term goals. And so you want to be able to split the goals that you're achieving. It can be temporally, so it can be based on time. It can be based on another metric that aligns with your goal. But make sure that you're splitting the big goals into smaller goals, and you celebrate every win and every accomplishment in a way that's suitable to you. But you have to celebrate every win because that builds momentum, because you're going to not want to lose how far you've come, right? And so we say, if your goal is to climb a mountain, then focus on the rocks that you're climbing or stepping over. And by the time you realize it, you've already crossed the mountain. So it's important to focus on these little rocks or pebbles and celebrate every time you step over one of those. Celebrate every time you overcome adversity. Celebrate every time you face a challenge and come out on top. Celebrate every time you have an accomplishment, especially the ones that you didn't think you were capable of achieving. So make sure that you celebrate each one of these wins so that you can get to a place in which you're just stacking wins. And I say you just put them in the bank. Because one of the things that happens that keep us from achieving our goals is the narratives that we tell ourselves in our heads, or what we are or we are not capable of. And we can get into that in another video of where these narratives come from and how we can get rid of them or how we can educate them better. So not necessarily all bad. So one of the things that I said in the beginning is that doing this podcast, for example, or doing this video, it's completely out of my comfort zone. And I think people underestimate how scary and how daunting it feels to step outside your comfort zone. I struggle with this myself, and especially when I tell patients, I try to educate people and try to warn people that stepping outside your comfort zone is scary, right? It's like going into the jungle without protection because you've never been there before. You don't know what to expect, right? And so it's important to prepare yourself for that. You're going to be going into uncharted territory for you. And instead of relying or depending on the environment to keep you safe, now you're going to be depending on yourself to keep you safe, right? And that's very beneficial. And I think we've all heard about the vagus response and all these other things, fight or flight or whatnot. But it's important to keep that in mind as you take the steps that you're going to. And by celebrating everyone, just going back to that one, you're going to be building the skills to be able to face these challenges and feel comfortable in doing that. Right, and feel comfortable in facing the challenges so that it is less daunting or less scary. It's still going to be scary, it's still going to be daunting, it's still going to be uncharted territories, but now you're going to be more prepared. Right, so that's one of the big things. In my life doing this, for example, I spent a long time looking at the different lighting setups and trying to set up the things to look just right and what camera do I get. But I've never wanted to be the guy with the best gear and the worst technique, let's say, right? I want to be the guy with the best technique and the worst gear because I know that the gear is going to make my technique even better or it's going to make it land a lot better. But there's no amount of gear that's going to make me fix my technique, right? And so if I get the best camera, then I'm just going to record myself doing the worst in better quality, right? So it's important to keep that in mind. When you first start something, you can rely on motivation, but to keep it going, it's really about momentum. It's about building these systems so that you can rely on your momentum to keep you going. One of the things that I want you to realize is that when you're working, and I say this primarily to parents and leaders and executives out there and everybody that is doing something meaningful in their lives, there's people watching. Well, there's people watching from both sides. Now, there's people watching hoping you fail, and there's people watching hoping you win. But like I said in the beginning, one of the biggest things about taking action and feeling confident in taking action is about joining a community. And so when you're taking action yourself, every action that you take is going to have a ripple effect in those communities. As a parent, my community is my kids, right? So every action that I take, I know that my kids are watching. And so I want to make sure that I'm presenting them with the best version of what this action looks like. And again, I want to emphasize that best doesn't mean perfect, right? It's the best for that situation. If the best I can do for that situation in that moment, other people might judge as not good enough, then that's fine. My goal is to never be a perfect parent or a perfect doc or whatever. My goal is to be the best that I can be in every given situation. And that's going to change from day to day. But always remember that the actions that you take are going to have a ripple effect in the rest of your life. And everybody's watching, for good or bad, but people are watching. And it's going to be surprising to you how much people are watching and how much they're learning from you as they prepare to take their first steps. So one of the things that I want to leave you with, after this podcast ends or after this video is up, I want you to take one small step, and I want you to do it immediately after this podcast. And then I want you to share your experience either in your community or in the comments below, or you can email me, or you can go on my website, read the blog. After this podcast, take one small step, make it small enough that you just do it by default so you can start to build the momentum it takes to get you to the finish line, right? I want you to create space from the moment when you started to where you are right now.